The title of this analysis is Bold Belinda's, tantalizing truants fashionable fops, digital doolittles, magnifying malaprop of social media. This is an cultural analysis done by Dr. Jaswant Kumar V. Rathod, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Government Arts College, Gandhinagar, Gujarat, India. It offers a comparative analysis between the Restoration comedy of manners and contemporary Indian social media culture. It argues that platforms such as Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, and influencer-driven ecosystems function as modern performative spaces where identity, desire, and hierarchy are continuously enacted. Drawing upon Indian case studies, micro-influencers, viral trends, and digital creators, the study demonstrates that the central features of the comedy of manners, snobbery, hypocrisy, performativity, and commodified relationships, persist in digital environments. Using theoretical frameworks from Irving Goffman, Mitchell Foucault, Jean Baudrillard, and Jean-François Lyotard, the paper situates Indian social media within a postmodern condition marked by simulation and hyperreality. The study ultimately argues that Indian digital culture represents a democratized yet intensified form of the comedy of manners. In social media, we find digital doolittles or magnifying malaprops. They can be compared with the characters of 18th century comedy of manners. They were from elite class of England. They reflect the coffee house culture. These rich people were enjoying and celebrating their life. They were expressed in the dramas of comedy of manners. The playwrights discussed about their snobbery and hypocrisy. People also enjoyed such comic aspects. They are made to please and entertain them. The rich found their echoes and shadows. The same thing happening currently in this digital age where people of all classes and castes in India are enjoying such mini clips which explore their joys. The shorts and videos of such comedies explore the lives of people without taking care of the unity of action, place, and time. Let Aristotle die. The videos' clips and thoughts they expose human frailties and skills to present their momentary joys. They expose human weaknesses and they expose all kinds of people from all classes. The socialization which we call digital socialization now has provided the post-mortem audience opportunities to show that talent all over the globe. Human relations have been digitized. The society have been transformed into digital, and that is why people do not take care of living with their families in joint family. Show the structure of joint family is distorted, or you can say the destroyed. So people would love to live in the digital space. They enjoy their digital space. They need the social interaction through digital technology, which is now not more possible in the age of fast technology or in the age of so much information. Their socialization or their internalization, and for that internal happiness is satisfied by the digital presence, pretense, and show of snobbery on social media platforms. They try to pretend that they are happy. They exhibit that they are beautiful. They exhibit their new dresses and faces. They post their presence at picnic spots and theaters. They post their momentary presence at hills and jungles. They try to show all that is there in them. Social media is full of pictures and videos of these people enjoying their food, dress, picnic, travel, dance, and much more. The comedy of manners is a genre of realistic comedy that flourished during the Restoration period, late 17th century. It satirizes the manners and affectations of a contemporary social class, usually the upper class, and focuses on the friction between their sophisticated outward fashions and their underlying human weaknesses. Here is an analysis of how these elements are exposed, with specific examples from the canon. 1. Exposure of fashions, surface vs substance. In these plays, fashion is not just about clothing, it is a way of life. Characters often prioritize style, wit, and appearance over morality or genuine emotion. The comedy arises when these fashions are shown to be hollow or when characters try too hard to be trendy. The fop character, the genre often features a fop, a man who is overly concerned with his appearance and French fashions. Example, in George Etheredge's The Man of Mode, the character Sir Fopling Flutter is the ultimate representation of empty fashion. He is more concerned with the cut of his suit and his perfume than with human connection. The play exposes him as a laughingstock because he mistakes vanity for true sophistication. 2. Exposure of etiquettes, the mask of politeness. Etiquette in the comedy of manners acts as a social mask. Characters use polite language and formal rules to hide their true intentions, which are often predatory, greedy, or lustful. The double entendre, characters use witty, polished dialogue to say one thing while meaning another. Example, in William Wycherley's The Country Wife, the china scene is a famous example. The characters use the etiquette of discussing fine porcelain china as a thinly veiled metaphor for sexual affairs. The polite conversation masks the scandalous reality, exposing the hypocrisy of high society manners. 3. Exposure of weaknesses, sexual and financial greed. While the characters appear elegant, their core weaknesses are usually lust and money. The plays strip away the refined exterior to show that the upper class is driven by the same basic instincts as everyone else. The predatory hero. The rake or hero is often a libertine who views seduction as a game. Example: in William Congreve's The Way of the World, the protagonist Murrayble and his lover Millamant have to navigate a world of greed. The weakness exposed here is the obsession with jointures, marriage settlements, and inheritance. Marriage is treated not as a holy union, but as a financial contract hidden behind romantic gestures. 4. Exposure of foibles, individual eccentricities. Foibles are the minor character flaws or quirks that make characters look ridiculous. These are often exposed through a lack of wit. In this genre, wit is the currency of power. Those who lack it, the witless, are the primary targets of satire. The pretender to wit, characters who think they are clever but are actually foolish. Example: in Sheridan's The School for Scandal, a later evolution of the genre, characters like Lady Sneerwell and Joseph Surface have the foible of malicious gossip. Their constant need to ruin reputations eventually leads to their own social downfall. Their scandal school exposes how the foible of jealousy drives social interaction. Sir Fopling Flutter in The Man of Mode exemplifies the ridiculousness of the fop. The China scene in The Country Wife shows how manners hide immoral acts. Murrayble and Millamant in The Way of the World shows the reducing of marriage to a financial hunt. In these plays, the writers describes gossip. The comedy of manners serves as a social mirror. By laughing at the fops, the gossips, and the greedy rakes, the audience is forced to look at their own social circles. It tells us that underneath the powdered wigs and the proper etiquette, human nature remains a complex mix of vanity and desire. In the comedy of manners, character is often secondary to social function. These plays rely on a set of stock or stereotyped characters who represent different facets of high society life. Their behavior is governed by a strict social code where wit is the ultimate virtue and folly is the ultimate sin. Here is a discussion of the primary stereotyped characters and their typical behaviors. 1. The Truant, the hero. The Truant is the ideal man of the Restoration period. He is usually a rake, a man of loose morals who is intellectually superior to everyone else in the room. Behavior: he is cool, detached, and never shows genuine emotion, as that would be considered unfashionable. He speaks in polished epigrams and views the pursuit of women as a strategic game of chess. Social function: he represents the audience's desire for sophistication. Example: Murrayble in The Way of the World or Dorimant in The Man of Mode. 2. The Witwoud, the pretender to wit. The witwoud is a character who thinks he is a truant but lacks the natural grace and intellect to carry it off. Behavior: he tries too hard, he tells too many jokes, uses forced metaphors, and often ends up insulting people by accident. His behavior is an overacting of fashion. Social function: he serves as a foil to the hero, showing that true wit cannot be learned, it must be innate. Example: Witwoud in The Way of the World, the character is literally named after the stereotype. 3. The Fop, the Man of Mode. The fop is perhaps the most famous stereotype. He is obsessed with the physical fashions of the day: clothes, wigs, perfume, and French phrases. Behavior: he spends hours at his dressing table. He is more in love with his own reflection than with any woman. He often speaks with an affected accent and uses grand, sweeping gestures. Social function: he is the primary target of the play's ridicule. He represents the vanity of the age taken to a ridiculous extreme. Example: Sir Fopling Flutter in The Man of Mode. 4. The Coquette and the Prude, the female stereotypes. Women in these dramas are often split into two categories based on how they handle social reputation. The coquette: she is the female version of the rake. She is a flirt who enjoys having many suitors to maintain her power. She is witty and fiercely independent. Example: Millamant in The Way of the World. The prude: she pretends to be deeply moral and disgusted by sex, but secretly she is often the most scandalous character in the play. Example: Lady Fidget in The Country Wife. 5. The Country Bumpkin, the outsider. Since the comedy of manners is an urban London genre, anyone from the countryside is portrayed as a fool. Behavior: they are loud, dress in out-of-date clothes, and have natural emotions like honesty or anger, which the city dwellers find hilarious and primitive. Social function: to reinforce the superiority of the London elite. Example: Marjorie Pinchwife in The Country Wife or Sir Wilful Witwoud in The Way of the World. Summary of behavior patterns. Regardless of the specific stereotype, all characters in these dramas behave according to the double standard. 1. Reputation is everything. It doesn't matter if you are immoral, it only matters if you are caught. 2. Wit over wisdom. Being smart is less important than being funny and quick. 3. Marriage as business. Love is rarely the goal, securing a fortune or a high-status connection is the true motivation behind their romantic behaviors. The world of the comedy of manners is often described as a glass beehive, a transparent yet enclosed space where characters are constantly watching one another, judging every movement and adhering to a ruthless social code. To understand this world, one must look at the three pillars that support it: snobbery, hypocrisy, and amoral romance. 1. The world of snobbery, wit as the ultimate currency. In the fashionable world of the Restoration, social standing was not determined by virtue or hard work but by wit. This created a high-stakes culture of snobbery. Intellectual elitism: the elite characters, the truants, looked down upon anyone who wasn't quick-tongued. If you couldn't speak in metaphors or sharp epigrams, you were considered a social clown. The urban versus rural divide: there was a profound snobbery directed at the country. Anyone from outside London was portrayed as smelling of manure and wearing out-of-date fashions. They were invited into the city only to be mocked by the town dwellers. The fop's vanity: snobbery also extended to physical appearance. Characters like Sir Fopling Flutter believed that a poorly tied cravat or a lack of French perfume was a greater sin than lying or cheating. 2. The world of hypocrisy, the social mask. Hypocrisy was not a flaw in this world, it was a survival skill. The characters lived by the rule that it is not a sin to do it, only to be found out. The prude's secret: characters like Lady Fidget in The Country Wife represent the peak of hypocrisy. Publicly, she speaks of her honor and her disgust at scandalous behavior. Privately, she uses that very reputation as a shield to hide her numerous affairs. Polished malice: the etiquette of the time required a mask of extreme politeness. Characters would bow and exchange elaborate compliments while simultaneously plotting to ruin each other's reputations or fortunes. The religious hypocrite: while religion was a major part of public life, in these plays, God is rarely mentioned except in jests. The characters use the appearance of morality to gain social leverage. 3. The world of amoral romances, love as a game of strategy. In these plays, romance is stripped of its Victorian sentimentality. It is rarely about soulmates and almost always about conquest and capital. The predator-prey dynamic: the hero, the rake, views women as fortresses to be besieged and conquered. Once the conquest is made, the game often ends. This is seen clearly in characters like Dorimant, who discards mistresses the moment they become unfashionable. Marriage as a financial contract. Marriage is almost never the end result of love. It is a business transaction. In Congreve's The Way of the World, the famous proviso scene between Murrayble and Millamant shows two people negotiating their marriage like a legal treaty, discussing tea, visiting rights, and money before they ever mention affection. The lack of remorse. What makes these romances amoral is the lack of guilt. Characters cheat on their spouses not because they are evil, but because they are bored or because it is the fashionable thing to do. Summary: the mirror of the age. This world was a direct reflection of the court of King Charles II. After years of strict Puritan rule under Cromwell, the pendulum swung toward excess. The comedy of manners documented a society that valued 1. Style over sincerity. 2. Wit over wisdom. 3. Reputation over reality. As a student of literature, you can see this world as a satirical playground. The playwrights weren't necessarily encouraging this behavior, they were holding up a mirror to show the audience how ridiculous and hollow their fashionable lives had become. The language and style of communication in the comedy of manners are arguably the most important features of the genre. In this world, how you say something is often more important than what you are actually saying. The communication style is a high-stakes performance designed to display intelligence, hide true emotions, and maintain social dominance. Here are the key characteristics. 1. The supremacy of wit. Wit is the primary language of the Restoration stage. It is defined as the ability to create quick, clever, and unexpected associations between seemingly unrelated ideas. Ammunition for social war. Wit is used as a weapon to cut rivals down or as a shield to protect one's reputation. Epigrammatic style. Characters often speak in epigrams, short, pithy statements that express a complex truth in a witty way. Example, in The Way of the World, the dialogue is so fast and polished that it feels like a fencing match where words are the foils. 2. The use of repartee. Repartee is a style of conversation characterized by quick, witty retorts. It is a back-and-forth verbal duel, usually between the hero, the rake, and the heroine, the coquette. The seduction game. In these dramas, verbal sparring is a form of foreplay. If a woman can match a man's wit, she proves she is his intellectual equal and worthy of his attention. Example, the famous proviso scene between Mirabel and Millamant is a masterpiece of repartee, where they negotiate the terms of their marriage with sharp, rhythmic banter. 3. Double entendre and sexual innuendo. Because the social code demanded outward politeness, characters became masters of the double entendre, phrases that have two meanings, one innocent and one scandalous, usually sexual. The China scene logic. This allowed playwrights to discuss taboo subjects while technically staying within the bounds of polite etiquette. Subtext. The audience is always required to read between the lines to understand the true amoral intentions behind the polished English. 4. Affected language and the fop's speech. While the heroes speak with natural, sharp wit, the fops and witwouds use a highly affected style. French influence. To show off their supposed sophistication, these characters pepper their English with unnecessary French phrases: l'air, bel air, je ne sais quoi. Malapropisms. They often use long, fashionable words incorrectly, exposing their lack of true intellect. Their language is a costume that doesn't quite fit. 5. The asides and soliloquies. Communication in these plays often involves three parties: the speaker, the person being spoken to, and the audience. The aside, a character will say something polite to another character's face, then turn to the audience and whisper a biting, honest truth. This highlights the hypocrisy of the age. Dramatic irony. The language creates a gap between what is publicly known and privately true, drawing the audience into a conspiracy with the characters. 6. Polished persuasion and manipulation. Characters use language to manipulate others into revealing secrets or losing their fortunes. The style is never direct, it is always circular and suggestive. Example, in The School for Scandal, the Surface brothers use language to build false reputations. One uses the language of sentiment, fake morality, to hide his greed, while the other's bluntness is actually more honest. In the comedy of manners, attire was not merely a matter of clothing. It was a visual language used to signal social status, intellectual superiority, and modernity. During the Restoration period, the way a person dressed was a direct reflection of their wit and their connection to the center of power, the royal court. Here is a discussion of how dress and style were used to exhibit modernity and social dominance. 1. The dress as a social rank. Modernity in the 17th century was defined by how far one could distance themselves from the common, or the rural. Extravagance. For men, this meant elaborate silk coats, waistcoats reaching the knees, and neckties, cravats made of fine Brussels lace. For women, it involved voluminous silk or satin gowns with low necklines and tight bodices. The town look. To be modern was to look like a Londoner. A character dressed in simple wool or sturdy leather was immediately identified as a country bumpkin, someone who was out of touch with the modern world. 2. The wigs and the periwig culture. Perhaps the most iconic symbol of Restoration modernity was the periwig. The size of success. Large, flowing, powdered wigs were worn by men of status. A modern man wouldn't be caught in public with his natural hair. The wig signaled that the wearer belonged to the leisure class, as it was impossible to do manual labor while wearing one. The ritual of grooming: characters often discussed their barbers or wig makers as much as their philosophers. To have the latest style of wig was to be at the cutting edge of fashion. 3. Showing modernity through affected style. For the fop, the man of mode, modernity was taken to a ridiculous extreme. He didn't just wear clothes, he performed them. The French influence: France was considered the peak of modernity. A character showed their modern credentials by wearing French-tailored suits and carrying accessories like muffs for keeping hands warm and snuff boxes. Over decoration: a modern fop would be covered in ribbons, jewels, and embroidery. This excess was a way of shouting, "I am wealthy, I am trendy, and I spend all my time on my appearance." 4. The language of accessories. Modernity was also shown through the little things. These accessories were used as tools for the complex social games of flirting and scandal. The fan: for women, a woman's fan was a sophisticated communication device. How she held it, snapped it shut, or fluttered it could signal "I love you, go away," or "I am listening to your scandal." The sword and the cane: for men, a modern gentleman carried a decorative sword or an elegant cane, not for protection, but as a rhythmic accompaniment to his witty walk. 5. The natural vs. the artificial. One of the key themes in these dramas is the battle between what is natural and what is artificial. The art of the mask: modernity was considered an art. Characters used heavy makeup, lead-based powders, and beauty patches to hide any natural blemishes or signs of aging. The patch as a signal: small black silk patches mouches were applied to the face. Depending on where they were placed, they could signal a character's political leaning or their romantic availability. Summary: attire as visual wit. In these plays, the character's attire acts as a visual prologue. Before a character even speaks a word of repartee, the audience knows their level of modernity by 1. The cut of the suit: high fashion signaled a truant. 2. The degree of affectation: too many ribbons signaled a fop. 3. The lack of polish: plain clothing signaled a fool or an outsider. This performance of modernity through dress directly influenced the development of the modern dandy in the 19th century.